Hello anyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney, where, it continues. The case that never hecking ends. I think we're about to get Mr. Exotic Butters or whatever onto the stand, so let's get that over with. 'Cause of course we are. Oh, we get to sit through the recess first, though. Ah, Gina, how are you holding up? I'm starting to feel quite warmly towards her frequent cold shoulders now.
Ginny! Are you alright? Why aren't you saying anything?
What's the point, eh? Why go to all this trouble and fight so hard for the likes of me?
What?
Why, you saw it, that picture. What picture?
Ah, you mean this? The photograph taken by Hurley's red-handed recorder. Well, I didn't think they would have captured a scene like this, that's for sure.
It's hopeless. Anyone who sees that's gonna think I did it, ain't they? Well, I won't pretend it wasn't a bit of a shock when the prosecution first presented it to the court. Surely you've got to have your doubts about me now. You can't still think I'm innocent. Of course I can. Huh.
Ginny, why don't you talk to us? Tell us what really happened that night.
Eh?
Bruno's cleverly managed to piece together a lot of new information, but still, we'd really like to hear it from you.
Alright then. Oh, good grief, are we actually learning information now? It was after we'd had that dinner together at your place, right, Iris? Then we all had a chat up in your office, didn't we? Yes, I remember. After that, I just couldn't get to sleep. So I slipped out and went down the street to the 2-1. To Windibagg's place. I had to know if Iris' story was there or not. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I don't know what it's about or nothing. But if you ask me, there's something in it that Sholmes don't like. Something what he don't want people reading. So that's why he lied to Iris about sticking it in lug with Windibag for safekeeping. At least that's what I thought at the time. So you broke into Windibank's. I just had to know if it was there or not. I mean, I had no idea at all that it was going to kick off, did I? I struck the lock and snuck inside. It was dark as you like in there. So I gave the oil lamp on the counter a bit of wick. And that's when... What do you think you're doing? Ah! I nearly died, I did. And next thing I knew... I grabbed the gun off the counter and was waving it in the air like, I don't know what. Ah, you're the girl who was in here this afternoon. I didn't think pickpockets went in for armed robbery. The manuscript, have you got it here? Did Sholmes leave a load of papers with you? A story? I beg your pardon? The Hound of the something or other. If it's here, I want to see it. I'm sorry, young lady, but I'd sooner die than relinquish an article belonging to one of my customers. I don't want it. What would I do with it anyway? I just want to see it's here, that's all. Oh, you want to see it, do you? I want to know if Sholmes really pawned it here or not. Please, just let me see it and I'll go. Very well then. But for pity's sake, stop waving my gun around, would you? So in the alcove, I unlocked the storeroom door, and we both went inside. And it was there, all right. The manuscript. Sholmes weren't lying after all.
You did all that just to check for me, Ginny?
Anyway, then there was a bit of a kick-up out in the main bit of the shop. The Skulkin brothers arriving on the scene, yes. What was that noise? Someone's breaking in. Dear me, is there some burglars convention here tonight that I don't know about?
I think I forgot to shut the door behind me. Sorry.
I'd better go and take care of it. Can I possibly have my gun back?
Oh, well, I'll come with you and...
Now don't be foolish, young girl. You must stay right here. Don't leave this room under any circumstances.
And with that, he took the gun out of my hands and walked back out into the shop. I hung back in the storeroom like he said, straining my ears in the dark to hear what was going on. It sounded like they got into a bit of a scrap. I started to think I should help, see? So I was just about to go out the storeroom myself when... I heard a couple of shots go off. 2, I think. Almost at the same time. And then there he was, right at my feet, lying face down on the floor. I was right next to the storeroom door, so I slammed it shut and locked it quick as you like.
Because you thought whoever had shot Mr. Winterbank might come for you.
Yeah, so I went to grab the old cove's gun. I figured I'd put up a fight at least. When I got a better look at him, I knew.
Winterbank was a goner.
I felt funny in my head all of a sudden, kinda dizzy. And after that, I don't remember nothing.
That must be when you passed out, Gina.
If I hadn't done what I'd done, the old cove might still be alive.
Did you tell the police everything you just told us?
Of course I did, but they didn't believe a word of it, did they? All they said was if I kept telling lies, it'd make things even worse for me. It'll be alright, Ginny. Don't worry. Just stay strong a little longer. Bruno's about to put the real culprit through the mill.
That cove, what was there in the afternoon? That Eggert Benedict. Yes. Oh dear. Eggs Benedict himself.
I still remember how he looked at me, like I was nothing. He was there that night.
We don't know his real name yet, but I'm convinced that he's involved somehow. Anyway, thank you for telling us what happened, Gina. I appreciate your honesty.
You what? You can leave it all in Bruno's capable hands now, Ginny. Mr. Naruodo.
Yes?
How come you trust me? I don't get it. I mean, have you forgotten what happened here before? Come on, it was only 2 months ago. Me and McGill did. We told you a whole pack of lies. You got the bog trotter off with him, even though he was a killer.
No, I could never forget that.
Oh.
I did what I thought was best at the time. But the pain of that error of judgment doesn't get any easier to bear. Still, don't forget that I also made you a promise. I told you that I'd be on your side to the bitter end, no matter what.
But what if I'm lying? You could be working to get another killer off the hook for all you know.
I was once in your position, Gina. I was the accused in a trial.
You were?
Before I left Japan, I was accused of murder. And strange as it might sound, the circumstances of the crime were pretty damning. I was sure that no one would believe it wasn't me who'd done it.
Oh, Bruno.
Again, we're just casually not mentioning that her father was the victim. Great. But there was one person who stood up for me, who believed in me and was prepared to defend me. My best friend. Rinosuke, no one believes in you more than I do. Leave this to me. All you need to do is put your faith in me, and I'll do the rest. I was so happy I cried. But even then, somewhere inside me, I couldn't help thinking, surely he doesn't really believe in me. Not completely. But I was wrong. Oh, Casimir. As soon as my trial began, it was obvious that he had an absolute, unwavering belief in me. And in turn, I developed an absolute, unwavering belief in him. Gentle sobbing noises at that pair. Since then, I came to realise, if you want someone to believe in you, you have to believe in the other person first. What are you saying? I promise you, Gina, that no matter what happens, I'll keep believing in you. So you don't need to worry. I won't let you down. Even though I'm a diver and a no-good liar. You're not like McGilded. I know that. Eh? That's right! You're our friend, Ginny! Iris? We know you better than you think. And we've come to the conclusion that you're someone we can trust. Yes! That's really all we need to know. Exactly! Mr. Naruodo, I... Oh. Defendant Gina Lestrade and her legal representative. Court proceedings are about to resume. Please head into the courtroom immediately. Yes, of course. Thank you. Time for Jury Ex Machina part, I don't know, 5? Oh. Casimir's theme. I'd been both a defendant and a defending lawyer in my time, so I knew only too well just how hard it was to put all your faith in another. And I also knew just how hard it was to bear the burden of another putting all their faith in you. This is it at last, the final chapter, the final battle. Is it though? I swear there were 5 chapters in this case and I'm on chapter 4, so rip me. Wish me luck, Susato-san. And I hope you're watching over me too, partner. Oh, no! Oh, stop giving me feelings! I'm too tired for this. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Zeeks, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness? The subpoena was delivered to the communication station where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem. I see. Then let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's procedure of the case heard by the court this morning. The glaring omission of this third bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector. Yes, I can only apologise, my lord. And although the defence's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. Huh! It's a big mistake to cross Hurley and me. A very big mistake. Don't shoot the judge, Iris. My lord, the subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building. Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. Mr. Eggert Benedict. I didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon, and certainly not like this. Well, clearly you've never played an Ace Attorney game then. Oh dear. What a lineup. Also, can we not get rid of the Skullkins? I'm really tired of them. Thank you for complying with the court's subpoena at such short notice, sir. But of course, my lord, an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige. Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record. Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer. I think that matches the name that was on his stick. It's kind of less fun than Eggert Benedict, but whatever. Mr. Graydon and I both work at London Central Communication Station. Now, perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about. You were apprised of the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume? Yes, I was. Something to do with a murder that took place to pawnbrokers on Baker Street. And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question. That is the accusation, indeed. This really is beyond a joke, you know. Very well, without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath. There it is. Gladly, my lord, gladly. I don't remember what his voice was, so generic posh man it is. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting such an outrageous accusation, even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. I mean, if he was shot, then presumably we'll be able to find the bullet wound. It's no metal detector to the shoulder, but we've got to do something here. Some Scaramouche detective's homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence. Well, we're gonna have fun with Iris on that one. So, you deny the accusation completely, do you? I must say I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy. It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will is upheld. And it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today. I mean, him pissing them off is probably good for my case, but, you know, that's a choice, mate. By golly. How long am I expected to be detained here? If, following the defence's cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you'll be free to leave immediately. Good, then I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation, at least. Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination. So, we meet again, Mr. Eggert Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon? My apologies. You are? Ryunosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. We have met. If you say so. Ashley Graydon, enchanté. So. I trust we can conclude this quickly. But I'm not holding your flashy hat while we do. Oh, that's gotta be a comb-over. The thicker lines around his hair suggest that that's going to come off at some point. Witness breakdown when.
Hold it!
Yes, we even met in the very pawnbrokery where the crime took place on the afternoon of the day in question. Though, of course, you introduced yourself by a different name at the time. It was Mr. Eggert Benedict, I believe. Tell me, what made you... The witness is here to testify about events that took place that night. He is under no obligation to answer such unrelated questions. You can't be serious. Thank you, because I certainly did not feel inclined to answer such an inappropriate question. So he's going to be evasive, is he, in an effort not to give anything away? This could be tricky.
Hold it!
Have you seen these two men before? This pair? No, I don't associate with criminals. Said by a man who introduced himself as Eggert Benedict. I'd like to know who I have to thank for this. Who made this outlandish accusation against me? The young lawyer there in the black. This is a farce! Whose idea was it to permit an outsider to work in a British court anyway? Take that up with the Lord Chief Justice, my dude. Well, needless to say.
Hold it!
Where were you at around 1 in the morning on the night in question, sir? That is past the hour at which I would normally retire. Certainly. I was not in the company of these rapscallions. Good word, rapscallion. You're able to prove that?
Objection!
Listen carefully, my friend. You appear to be under a gross misapprehension on this point. The burden of proof lies on the defence. The witness maintains he was not at the scene of the crime. He has no obligation to prove his absence. If your accusation is that the witness was present at the scene, the obligation lies with you to prove your assertion. Yep, there it is. You will fulfill that obligation before putting any more unreasonable questions to the witness. I can't with him. A silent victory wiggle. Thanks. I love the writing in these games. It's such nonsense.
Hold it!
Blood was found at the scene of the crime. There's no question of that. Mr. Sholmes's chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such. But I am not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be sure that the blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants. Every individual's blood has a slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholmes's chemical is able to differentiate different... Spare me the science lesson. Who is this Sholmes character, anyway? Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a great, well, a renowned detective. So, even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective. A great detective, you say? Huh, now we're in the realm of fairy tales, are we?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin? Eh? What? Me? No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you. Right, I've had it up to here with this. How many times have I got to tell you? Yes, I know, you're not Big Bruv Sulky. Mr. Nash Skulkin. Eh? Call blimey, governor. You what? Is it not the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court? Eh? Me thoughts? I don't have none of them. It must have been him. You what? Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon just spoke? Nothing. Honest, Gov, nothing. I was just thinking. If he waves his arms around like that much more, it'll open up the wound again, that's all. Wow. What wound? Right at the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, well, you know, I was worrying for him and... Oh, hell's bells. Yeah, you've really just messed everything up for him. Thank you. Mr. Graydon, did you hear that? What? Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm. My lord? Yes, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. Certainly I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations. We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir. The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand, as if in pain. That's a very good raised eyebrow he's got going on there. No. I refuse. I mean, saw that coming. You have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. Eh. As I've already said, I'm completely uninvolved in all this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offence at the insinuation that I was in any way involved. Do we have a photo of him from earlier in the day? You claim to have had nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windibank's pawnbrokery. My lord, the defence would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony. Very well, counsel. Continue with your testimony, Mr. Graydon. Oh yeah, Gregson was there as well, wasn't he?
Hold it!
I don't know, we'll press this and then see what we can present. Never had anything to do with it. You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I am not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study.
Objection!
No, you were there to redeem an article. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, Gregsy! Thank you, Gregsy!
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Inspector? Hey, come again, Sunshine. You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector? That afternoon? Oh yes, I do remember meeting yourself in the pawnbrokers that afternoon. You, your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I recall. And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article. Well now. I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly. What? But you must! I'm not going to lie and pretend I remember something that I don't. What's going on here?
Rexy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the cameras that Hurley installed in Windibank's.
Yes, of course. Indeed, and the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say. Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. I merely entered the shop to peruse the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. This makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. But why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? Is it because the disc was connected to McGilded, and therefore he doesn't want to ruin the rest of his case against whatever else is going on? I don't know.
What do you think, Bruno?
I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away.
The complete opposite of Hurley, then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better.
Well, at least I managed to prise a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers.
Yes, they were the key to it after all.
So he says he had nothing to do with Windibanks. Well, we know that's not true.
Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record.
Okay, so I do need to present something. I mean, the only thing I can think of is the music box disc. Good idea, you never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon. Okay, I never actually pressed this, so just to be safe. Don't forget, sir, that Mr. Herlock Sholmes is the most famous detective in the world. And the most famous detective in the world tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, oh no, I can't think how to answer that. I once saw the world's most famous swindler thrown into jail. He allegedly told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but what turned out to be a pack of lies. Ugh. Quite, now. As you are no doubt aware, the Central Communication Station is the heart of this country's information network. My work there is of paramount importance, and you have kept me from it for long enough already. Okay. Oh, let's give this a look, I guess.
Objection!
Okay, the music stopped. That's usually a good sign. Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? This disc was, until the day of his murder, in pawn in Mr. Winterbank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try and take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course, wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. No, it was Mr. Eggert Benedict. I've never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc. Ah yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps. That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in some form of the smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also, in the form of a scratch. Good gracious, indeed it must. Mr. Graydon, you refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with the smear of blood on this disc. Well, well. It would seem I underestimated you. What is the meaning of this? So you admit it now? You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempted to take this disc from the defendant? Well, Mr. Graydon? It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple, you see. The disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item that you own out of pawn? What? It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc now. As you wish. I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. Yeah, I wouldn't be so certain of that, mate. But hey, new information is new information. There's a note on the disc saying for McGilded, but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night. Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say? The famous London philanthropist? Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder. Yes, my lord, the one and the same. Good lord, Mr. Graydon. Are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself are acquainted? Yes, that's correct. Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again. According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Winterbanks.
It's funny that Mr. Graydon here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it?
In all likelihood, he's lying. So he appeared that afternoon at Winterbanks in order to get his hands on McGilded's disc for some reason. Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please. Alrighty. The disc. There's a note on the disc saying, for McGilded, but the item belongs to me.
Hold it!
Would you care to explain how this belongs to you? As you will observe, a communications officer such as myself commands a fine salary. You are certainly exquisitely dressed, sir. So you see, I have little need to make use of the services provided by the pawnbrokery trade. However, I did once find myself in difficulties having misplaced my purse whilst on an errand. Which is why I pawned my fine black overcoat to the broker in question. You claim that was your overcoat. Obviously, and in my haste I clean forgot. And the music box disc was in its pocket. And yet there is a note on it that reads, for McGilded. I am a collector of rare and unusual music box music. I first met Mr. McGilded at a gentleman's club in the city and was interested to discover that he shared my penchant in that area. So the disc in question, it's a pre-production sample. I promised to let Mr. McGilded hear it. But then you forgot that it was in the pocket of the overcoat you were forced to pawn. Yes, exactly.
Gina didn't mention any of that in her testimony 2 months ago, did she?
No, because McGilded had threatened her to keep her mouth shut. Which means that if we dig too deeply here, it's going to expose Gina's perjury.
Oh dear, this is complicated, isn't it?
Let's leave it alone for the time being.
Hold it!
So you're saying that Mr. Strad lifted the ticket from your pocket or bag? That's right. Despite being mindful of danger when walking in the insalubrious areas her kind frequent.
Objection!
I can read, I promise. Mr. Strad did no such thing. Well, of course you would take that stance, but the girl is a regular offender. You came to the pawnbrokery that day prepared with all the information you needed to identify the defendant. You were looking for her, that's what brought you to Winterbanks. To get your hands on Mr. McGilded's disc.
Objection!
My friend is a veritable font of nonsense. Nonsense. I concur with the prosecution. Counsel, you will refrain from conjecturing in this way. Is that clear? Yes, my lord. Then I will continue with my testimony for what possible use it can be.
Hold it!
Had you ever been to Winterbanks before? Only once, for the purposes of pawning something. But, like many, I enjoy browsing in such establishments. So when you noticed that the pickpocket had taken your ticket, you chased after her. Is that correct? That wasn't his voice, but whatever. Yes, that's right. I didn't notice at first, of course, such is the art of the pick purse. But when I did, I headed to the pawnbrokery at once, in order to reclaim my coat before the thief could. I was merely trying to recover what was rightfully mine in the first place. Ugh, he can say what he likes because he knows we have no evidence to contradict him on this. Yep.
Hold it!
Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right, this was the very man. Apparently the police are collecting anything that has a connection to Mr. McGilded
Right?
as evidence.
Excuse me!
Is something wrong, Inspector? What do you mean? Last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way. Eh? No, it didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone. Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilder's possessions? I can't tell you something like that, Sunshine. What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets? Yes, exactly. You should know all about that. Magnus McGilded, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man renowned throughout the capital for his great contributions to public life. Yet he had a dark side, too. Where are you going with this, Van Zeeks? I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they? That's enough! Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know. Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume. The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's paw print first. What's all this about? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zeeks here. Is there? Well, it would appear that the Inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony. Huh. Okay. I was hoping that would actually help me progress, but guess not.
Hold it!
But perhaps you'd seen something of value among the forfeited items. No, not at all. Oh. The valuer was brought in by the police to assess everything in the shop. Without exception, every article on the shelves was common or garden bric-a-brac. In that case, it's clear that you broke into the shop later that day in order to recover Mr. McGilded's disc. Have you not been listening, man? Even if I had wanted to recover the disc, you may recall that it had been seized by the police that afternoon. It was no more in the shop that night than I. As I keep saying, I simply had no reason to break in. So there was nothing of McGilder's left in the shop that night. Nothing this man might have been after. I wonder if that's really true. I know, if you have some evidence. Then let him have it. I'm dying to see that irritatingly assured expression of his crumble. I mean, me too, but I don't know if I have evidence. McGild slipped the disc into his coat pocket and had it deposited at Winderbank's. Then, when he realised he was going to be arrested on suspicion of the omnibus murder, he threatened Gina and forced her to take the redemption ticket. There's no doubt about it. That witness is lying through his pearly white teeth. The police were obviously after anything left behind by McGilded as well. That's why Inspector Gregson ended up taking the disc into custody that day. But Gregsy's being very strange about all this. There must be a reason for that, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. For now, I need to focus on exposing the fact that Mr. Graydon is lying in his testimony. Yeah, I have literally no idea how to do that, so be right back, checking a walkthrough. Okay, so fun fact, I was convinced we were on part 4 of this case, but we're actually on part 3, so we potentially have 2 more parts left to do. What the heck? This case just keeps on going. But anyway, I do know what to do now, and it does make sense. I've just lost track of every piece of evidence that we have. Mr. Winderbank appears to have used the back of this photograph to write out a redemption ticket. He's written it very neatly, but still. Perhaps he ran out of paper, so he had to use anything he had to hand. It's hard to know what's the front and what's the reverse side now.
Objection!
This disc was deposited at Winderbank's on Magnus McGilded's instructions. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection!
Conjecture again, and in any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbrokery again that night.
Objection!
Sorry, my learned friend, but that's not true. What? Mr. McGildet had another article in Pawn at Winterbanks, as this second pawnbroker's ticket proves. Ah? There were 2 articles belonging to Mr. McGildet in Winterbanks pawnbrokery, and the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one, together with your 2 accomplices, the Skulkin brothers. Ah! This is the second ticket, is it? What had the man deposited? The article description reads, 1 small box. A rather vague description, it seems to me. Are you suggesting that I broke into the pawnbrokery with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect that you did. This is absurd. Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would be absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point. Indeed. The witness makes a solid argument.
So that means that for some reason, this Graydon fellow needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
It's time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord. Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Van Zeeks? I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from Winterbank's pawnbrokery. And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it. What? Good gracious! Inspector, show the photographic prints to the court, if you please. Yes, sir. What prints? These prints were taken from one of the detective's security cameras.
Ah, Hurley's red-handed recorders again!
As previously explained, using this plan of the shop layout. The victim's establishment was furnished with automatic cameras in 2 locations. One was set to capture the counter where Mr. Winterbank received his customers, and the other was set to capture the shelves on which articles were placed for sale once forfeited. Just casually readjust my mic while we have the good music to listen to. According to the information on this ticket, the gilded small box had been forfeited already. 2 days before the incident, at 9 PM on the 13th of April to be precise. Which means it would have been on the shelves of forfeited items in the shop front. Now, what I have here is a print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's at 11 PM on 15th of April. The victim certainly had a very full shop, it would appear. And then here we have another print. This one was taken about 2 hours after the incident. I see. So we have 2 pictures to compare. Though I must say that placing them side by side leaves me cold. Dear me, that's starting to make my head ache. Obviously, at Scotland Yard, we considered theft as one possible motive in this case. We explored the possibility that something had been taken in addition to the victim's life. So your men have already compared these 2 prints thoroughly, Inspector? Yes, sir. We counted every single item in each of these 2 photographic prints. And the Yard's conclusion is that exactly the same number are present in both. In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy. Woohoo! I don't believe it. If I could just have shown that he'd stolen McGilded's pawned box, I might have been able to break him down at last.
You know what, Bruno? I've been thinking. I wonder if
these two photographs really are exactly the same. What? So, counsel, in light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that, in fact, on the night in question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? That would be no. Could there be some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Thanks to the walkthrough, I know what it is. It took me a while to find it, though. It's quite well hidden. I don't know if I would actually have got it on my own. I wasn't sure at first, but there is a clear discrepancy between these two prints. What? You must identify the location in question for the court, counsel. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy of which you speak. I mean, first of all, can I say, putting the Thinker statue there is extremely rude. I think I mentioned that before, but I'm still not over it. But anyway, this guy, this barely visible guy...
Take that!
Granted, these two prints are almost identical. However, there is one minor discrepancy between them. What? When you view the two pictures stereoscopically... Here we go again. A single area stands out as being different. The location of this small box. Oh, look at him go. Let me wait. Unbelievable. I love that they made that sprite. That's fabulous. And he's still doing it, look. By Jove, you're right. How extraordinary. What this tells us is very simple. Mr. McGildered's small box was indeed not stolen from Windibanks on the night in question. However, there can be no doubt that somebody picked up this particular box and then returned it to its place on the shelves. Are you suggesting that the small box originally deposited by Mr. McGildered is in fact... Yes, the very same small box I just identified in those photographic prints?
Objection!
Mindless guesswork. What if it was? So a box was moved on the shelf. Nothing was stolen. Which means quite simply that nothing has changed. That may be true, but... Alright, McGildered's box wasn't stolen then. But doesn't the fact that it was moved like that change things? It changes everything. I believe this changes everything about the case. How can that possibly be? The crucial point is the fact that what was moved was a small box. In other words, we have to consider what might have been inside that box. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that we need to examine that box as soon as possible. A vital piece of evidence is sitting on the shelves at Windibanks as we speak.
Objection!
That won't be necessary. Some little box belonging to a man who died 2 months ago can't possibly be relevant to this trial. The court does not uphold your objection, Lord Van Zeeks. Bailiff, arrange for an officer to go to Baker Street at once. Obtain the small box in question and bring it back here for further examination. Wait. Ooh, he mad. He also mad. We're doing well at angering people this episode, aren't we? But when do I not? We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until the evidence is brought forth. To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Huh. Disappointing. I beg your pardon, Lord Van Zeeks. This is nothing but a smokescreen. A specialty, it would seem. What are you trying to say? My learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning. That this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGildered from the pawnbrokery.
Yet common sense tells us that none of the articles have value enough to be worth stealing in the first place. Exactly! It would be beyond absurd to break into a place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property. If your lordship recalls, Mr. McGilded perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of his trial. A trial in which he was found not guilty. A trial in which it was established he was the upstanding member of society his reputation implied, in fact. So I propose a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense. Just hit us where it hurts, why don't you? The articles this outstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just happened to have a music box disc in one of its pockets, and a small box. So you're admitting it was his overcoat and not yours then, I see. I assure you, I wouldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such things to me. Yeah, sure, whatever you say. You already lied about it being yours once, but whatever. The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling. It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its argument. To explain what possible significance these commonplace articles pawned by this fine citizen could have. Well, counsel, is your argument in fact demonstrable? Are you able to show proof that the disc or the box are in any tangible way related to this case? Well,
What's the matter, Bruno? We know that they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence.
yes, of course, you and I both know that. We know McGilded's true character, and we know the disc is significant even if we don't know why. But if we explain all that to the court at this point, we'll have to acknowledge that McGilded's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. That the defence's argument was flawed, based on false information.
Oh no!
And that would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury.
But Ginny!
Could it be that Van Zieks knows? Is that why he's doing this now? Because he anticipated everything?
But maybe. This could be a great opportunity for us.
Sorry? What do you mean, Iris?
Well, what is it that you always say, Bruno? Sooner or later, the truth comes out. Every time.
Alright, the exact significance of the things that McGilded deposited with Mr. Winterbank is something that only Gina can explain to the court. But if I put her on the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. What's the right thing to do here? I don't want to put Gina through this, but I kind of have to. My lord, the defence would like to make a proposal. Oh, what proposal, counsel? While the court awaits the arrival of Mr. McGilded's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand. The defendant? To what end? It's to do with the various articles deposited at Winterbanks by Mr. McGilded, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear what she has to say. It will prove the significance of the articles in question, once and for all. Well, well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you've considered the implications of the testimony you're proposing. In particular, the impact it will have on the accused's standing, and indeed your own. I have. Lord Van Zieks, would you care to explain that last remark? The prosecution accepts the defence's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself. Well, I'm sure this can't go well for me. Very well, if you have no objection. So, the court will now hear the testimony of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Your witnesses currently in the stand may step down until further notice. Then I shall bid you good day. Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Miss Lestrade testifies. As you wish. All right then, Gina, it's time. I know this will be hard, but please, put your faith in me here. Good luck, Bruno. Yeah, I'm gonna need it. 'Cause I'm not competent. The articles that Mr. McGildet had deposited in Winterbank's pawnbrokery are intimately related with the omnibus case, the trial of which was heard in this courtroom 2 months ago. Yes, and I remember this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well. That's right, my lord. Her testimony helped to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGildet. The omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we all are again, the same players in that trial, facing each other once more. A twist of fate, perhaps, my friend. Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus rolling along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGildet. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged. That the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the capture card. Oh boy, having just finished editing episode 17, which was capture card heck. Not great to have my first crash since then, hopefully it won't continue. Anyway, with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Miss Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Miss Lestrade was concealed under a seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGildet died in this very courtroom in the most extraordinary of circumstances. A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months on. As indeed does the omnibus murder itself. Be that as it may, I recall neither the disc nor this small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings. Miss Lestrade, would you tell the court now, please? What really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago, I mean?
I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know.
And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Miss Lestrade, this is extremely important.
But...
Remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully withheld information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, let's face facts, you have little credibility to lose.
Ginny, don't listen to him! Please, you have to trust Bruno now. Iris. We're on your side!
Alright then. I'll talk. It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it. I must confess that I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. Yeah, you and me both. However, it would appear that Mr. McGilded's pawned articles in that extraordinary case of the omnibus harbour secrets of which we have been hitherto unaware. So, Miss Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. Unrelated, but I'm wondering how the heck they can drag another case into this, so I'm wondering if the Russian guy on the jury is effectively a hint towards the next game's plot. Because I don't have the energy to drag him into this now. Can we just deal with 2 crimes and not 3? Please, for once in our lives. You will reveal the truth, a commodity sorely lacking in your original statements. This is it then. Everything's going to come out. Like Van Ziek said, this could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears. But as a lawyer, I'm prepared to take that risk. Truth is, that brickmaker cove was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. That's when McGill had slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard. Good grief, this is outrageous. What you've just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago. As you say, my lord. Then there's every chance. I may have adjudicated an error in McGilded's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived this court, in an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes. Without doubt, your lordship is correct. Capture card, I swear! Anyway, hopefully the capture card won't die again, or I will go insane. Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in that trial, of this witness, and of my learned friend are entirely inexcusable. You're wrong, the lot of you. Mr. Narrow-Uddo, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it. Humbug. I don't think so. We really expected to believe that. He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation to get the man off scot-free. Unforgivable, stop. The lies have to stop. Yes, the defence made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of Mr. McGilded's pawned articles must be brought to light. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of calamity you've just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing. Words fail me. The situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. Blimey, Mr. Naruhodo. Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Well, this is going well. And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats. Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all. Now, in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain that you claimed Mr. McGilded was the sole passenger, did you not? False testimony, my lord. That's what he told me I had to say. I mean, again, a teenager being threatened, you've got to feel somewhat bad for her. But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances? I don't know. But I did hear him talking a lot. What were they talking about? Well, I couldn't hear too well, but if I had to say, I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying. Perhaps business dealings of some kind. Well, anyway, they got louder and louder. It started to sound like a proper fight. I was pretty scared by then. I hardly dared to breathe. And then, all of a sudden, I heard a noise like someone keeling over on the floor. It was blooming loud and all. And I believe you let out an involuntary scream. Yeah. That's what gave me away. When the Irishman dragged me... Yeah, we've done that.
Hold it!
Sometimes I forget what I have and haven't read here. Was the disc you saw this disc? Yeah, I reckon it probably was. It was right next to the cove lying on the floor. Could this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps? I don't know, but Mr. Guild had picked it up pretty sharpish. And there he sat at the cove with a knife in his belly up on the seat. What did he say to you at that time? He told me not to say a word about what I'd seen or heard to no one. About a disc and all. I was dead scared. The way he was looking at me, I thought, if I didn't go along with it, I'd get stuck with that knife too. And he started asking me a load of questions. Like what my name was and where I lived and that. He asked me about being a diver too. But after a while, what had happened in the carriage was noticed. Yeah, that's right. First there was a kind of rapping noise.
Hold it!
There were two gentlemen occupying the seats on the roof deck, I believe. That's right. They must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the cove with the knife in his guts. When they screamed, the driver pulled up the horses and McGill had got me out of sight. Out of sight? Where? Back under the seat where I started off. Once the carriage came to an halt, the two coves from the roof ran off to fetch the slops. If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they are entirely unrelated to the incident. So that left McGilded, the driver, and you still at the scene. Yeah, only the driver didn't know I was there because I was under the seat. I heard the cabin door open and a voice from outside. The driver, yes. He also testified in the trial, I believe. A fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves. What did Mr. McGilded and the driver say to each other? I don't know what happened and stuff like that, mainly.
Hold it!
That pawn shop obviously being Winterbanks on Baker Street. Just a moment, counsel. Do you mean to tell me that the driver gave false testimony in that trial as well? Perhaps the excursion to the pawnbrokery slipped his mind when he was on the stand. Indeed, Lord Van Zeeks. McGilded took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up, all careful-like, before handing it over. When I saw him do that, I remember thinking, that coat and what's in it got to be worth a few bob. Yes, Gina was sure the disc must be worth more than Mr. Winterbank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember her quibbling with him over the price that afternoon at the pawnbrokery. The driver looked pretty happy when McGilded flashed some brass in his face. He went running off at a lick. And the bog trotter called to me and told me to come out from the drag's cabin.
Hold it!
Threatened you how exactly? Told me I'd only be able to scarper if I did exactly what he said. Which concluded giving false testimony in court 2 months ago. Yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing he said. Which was? He told me I'd have to hang on to the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it. The ticket? Well, I never. Said if he didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop and pay the money to keep it in lug and stop it being forfeited. He left me with some brass to pay for it. But really, why on earth would Mr. McGilded have done such a thing? Depositing his overcoat with a pawnbroker before the arrival of the police, it makes no sense at all. There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What Mr. McGilded had the driver deposited to Winterbanks was something he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs. Anyway, after that he let me go, so I legged it before the copper showed up. Well done, Gina. It can't have been easy to tell the truth like that.
Ginny's really put her faith in you, Reno.
Yes, and thank her, she'll have to face a charge of perjury once this trial's over. So I need to use the time we have now to get as much information out of her as possible.
It's time to really go for it. Press her on every statement.
I suppose I should.
Oh, and another thing.
What's that?
Take a look at those two. Isn't it strange that they've been whispering to each other the entire time?
Yes, that is strange. It looks like they're having a secret discussion about something. I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable with that. I wonder if there's anything I can do about it. Not that I can think of. Because I've already pressed her on everything. I might have to go back to the walkthrough for this one. Okay, I would never have thought to do this, so thanks, walkthrough. Apparently you just have to press them on anything and then pursue them even though they're not.
Excuse me.
Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Graydon? Inspector, Mr. Graydon. What? Blimey, you trying to give me a heart attack? You've been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us, what is it the discussion about? Discussion? With this fella? Well, the other one, Sunshine. You think I've got anything to talk about with a shady gent like this? And I have nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine. But they've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina. It's as if they've been negotiating. Thank you, Miss Lestrade. Thank you, Counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the omnibus. It would appear on that night 2 months ago, a negotiation was taking place on the omnibus. A negotiation concerning this disc. However, matters did not run smoothly. When the parties involved began to quarrel over price, McGilded took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life. Which proves my point. The disc is clearly extremely valuable in some way. Well, I don't understand why as yet. And 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the omnibus incident, McGilded's coat and its contents were due to be forfeited.
I didn't know what I should do with the ticket. I mean, the cove died right after his trial. I knew that.
So you decided you would try to claim the articles as your own?
Well, why not, eh? They're only going to be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime.
Miss Lestrade, it would appear Mr. McGilded was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be?
Eh? I ain't got a clue. But I reckon it must be worth a fair bit of brass. He was probably going to sell it. And you can't blame me for thinking that. Thinking ain't no crime.
My lord. The evidence your lordship requested has been located and is ready for the court's inspection, sir. Oh boy. Thank you, capture card, once again. The mysterious little box deposited by McGilded 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle. Is this going to be a to be continued? And I just had to restart my capture card for like 30 seconds. Fabulous. Oh, I hate that thing. But anyway. As much as I kind of want to keep going with this now, I think my capture card has said no, so I'd better give it a break. And this episode's probably long enough already. So thank you for watching whatever the heck this was. And maybe next time we'll finally be in the home stretch of this game. It's taken me long enough. So thank you so much for watching, and until then, goodbye.